From the outside, Lily's life seemed perfect. She grew up in a warm home surrounded by a loving family. Her parents, successful business owners, always made sure that Lily had everything she needed. Her younger brother, Sam, was the closest thing she had to a best friend. They shared secrets, laughter, and the occasional mischief, their bond unbreakable, or so she thought. But beneath the surface of their picture-perfect family, cracks had started to form long before Lily realized. Lily's mother, Julia, had always been a strong matriarch, the glue that held everything together. But lately, she had become distant, cold, even. Lily had noticed subtle changes in her behavior. She was often preoccupied, lost in thought, and sometimes she would dismiss Lily's concerns with a wave of her hand. Her father, Richard, once the cornerstone of their family, had been working long hours at the family business, barely home for dinner or to check in on his children. Lily didn't think much of it at first. After all, her parents were busy, and they had a successful company to run. But then one fateful evening, everything changed. It was a typical Sunday evening when the storm broke. The family had gathered for dinner, as they always did, when Julia dropped a bombshell that shattered their world. "We need to talk," Julia began, her voice trembling slightly. Richard, who had been absent for most of the week, sat at the head of the table, his eyes filled with a certain emptiness. Sam, who was too young to understand the way of the conversation, fiddled with his food, unaware that his life was about to be turned upside down. "We've made some decisions. Major decisions," Julia continued, her eyes darting to Richard, who gave her a silent nod. "You know, Lily, we've been working on securing the future of the family business, making sure everything's set for the next generation. And, well, we've made a choice." Lily's heart skipped a beat. She could feel the tension building in the room, and something about her mother's tone set off alarm bells in her head. "What are you talking about?" Lily asked, trying to keep her voice steady, though her hands were starting to shake. "Lily," Richard finally spoke, his voice unusually cold. "We've decided that Sam will take over the business when I retire. You've always had other dreams, other plans. The company will go to him." Lily's breath caught in her throat. Her eyes flicked between her parents and Sam, who was now looking up from his plate, confusion written on his face. "Wait, what?" she stammered. "Why Sam? Why not me? I've been working alongside you both for years. I've dedicated my life to this family and this company. Why are you doing this?" Her mother's face hardened, and Richard's silence spoke volumes. They weren't just telling her something. They were making a choice, one that would change the course of her life forever. "Because, Lily," Julia said, "you've always been too ambitious. You've always wanted more than this life. Sam is more suited to run things. He's dependable, loyal. You've always been chasing something bigger, something outside this family." Lily's heart shattered in that moment. The betrayal was so deep, so cold, it left her gasping for air. It wasn't just a business, it was everything. The years of dedication, the sleepless nights, the sacrifices she made for the family, all of it seemed to mean nothing. Sam, her little brother, had been chosen, not because of his capability, but because he was the one they believed would stay loyal to them, never daring to dream outside the small world they'd built. Lily sat in stunned silence, unable to process what had just been said. It felt as though the room was spinning, her whole future slipping through her fingers. "I can't believe this," she whispered, her voice barely audible. "You're throwing everything away. You're throwing me away." Julia's face softened for a moment, but there was no apology in her eyes. "It's what's best for the family, Lily." Those words, "what's best for the family," echoed in her mind long after the conversation ended. The night dragged on, but Lily couldn't bring herself to eat or speak. All she could think about was how her family had betrayed her, how they had given everything she worked for Sam without a second thought. That night, as she lay in bed, a bitter resolve began to form in her heart. If they thought they could push her aside so easily, they were wrong. Lily would show them. She would take everything back. Lily knew that the next steps had to be calculated. Her emotions were a tidal wave, but she couldn't afford to let them cloud her judgment. She needed to think, to plan, to act. She started by doing what she did best, researching. She dug into the family business, looking for any loopholes, any mistakes her parents might have made, any forgotten clauses, or old contracts that could give her way back into the company. She spent long nights poring over financial statements, legal documents, and old family records. She had to learn everything about the company's history, its holdings, and its weaknesses. But Lily knew that the business wasn't just about numbers. It was about power. And power was something she needed to regain. She needed to control the company. But more importantly, she needed to control her future. Lily began to quietly gather allies. People who had worked with her in the past, people who believe in her, and most importantly, people who knew what her family had done. She knew she couldn't do this alone. She would need the right people in the right places to help her pull off what she had in mind. Her first ally was Michael, the head of the legal department. He had worked alongside her for years, and although he was loyal to her parents, he knew the truth. He knew how they had used their power and influence to manipulate situations, to twist the rules to fit their needs. Michael had always believed that Lily had been a more capable and driven sibling, and now he was ready to help her reclaim what was rightfully hers. The second ally was Amanda, the company's chief financial officer. Amanda had seen the writing on the wall for years. She knew the company was struggling under the weight of bad decisions and poor management. Lily had always been the one who held the company together, even if no one acknowledged it. Amanda was tired of watching the business go downhill, and she was ready to throw her support behind Lily. The final piece of the puzzle was Ethan, the head of the board. Ethan was an old family friend, someone who had watched Lily grow up and knew just how capable she was. He had seen the way her parents had manipulated her, pushing her to the sidelines while giving Sam everything. Ethan had always respected Lily's ambition, and now he was willing to help her take back control. With her team in place, Lily knew it was time to put her plan into action. She began to manipulate the media, sending anonymous tips about the family's questionable business practices. She used her network to gather evidence of their mistakes, subtly planting seeds of doubt among the shareholders. Every move she made was calculated. Every word spoken was designed to undermine her parents' authority. As the months passed, Lily's plan began to unfold. The business started to falter. Small cracks began to show in the foundation her parents had so carefully built. Shareholders started to question their leadership, and whispers of corruption and mismanagement began to spread. But Lily knew the real battle was still ahead. Taking back control wouldn't be easy, and she had to be ready for whatever her parents threw her way. In the quiet of her office, late one evening, Lily sat back in her chair, staring at the plan she had so meticulously put together. She knew it was only a matter of time before her family would realize what was happening. But by then it would be too late. She would take back what was hers. She would take everything back, and she would make them regret ever betraying her. The months that followed were a blur of strategy, calculations, and subtle movements. Lily had positioned herself carefully, with each step planned meticulously. Her allies, Michael, Amanda, and Ethan, had proven invaluable, but the road ahead was anything but smooth. Her family, especially her mother Julia, were starting to sense that something wasn't quite right, but they couldn't put their finger on it yet. Lily knew the key to everything lay in the upcoming shareholders meeting. That was the moment she had been waiting for. The shareholders meeting was always an annual event, one that her father, Richard, hosted with great pride. He was a man of routine, obsessed with controlling the narrative, and Lily had every intention of taking that control from him. She had been attending these meetings for years, watching and learning how her father manipulated the room, how he used his charm and influence to sway everyone to his side. But this time, Lily had a different plan, one that would shift the power dynamics entirely. The morning of the meeting arrived, and Lily felt a mixture of excitement and apprehension. The air was thick with anticipation. Today, everything would change. Lily arrived at the boardroom early, well before her family or any of the other shareholders arrived. She sat in the front row, a quiet confidence radiating from her. As she glanced around the room, she noted the familiar faces, the men and women who had loyally followed Richard and Julia over the years. But this time, it wasn't just her parents' control over the room that she was concerned with. It was her time to turn the tables. As the others began to filter in, Lily made a deliberate move. She approached Ethan, the head of the board, who had been one of her key allies. Ethan gave her a reassuring nod. They had already discussed their plan, but this was the moment it all came to fruition. "You ready?" Ethan whispered, his voice low enough so no one else could hear. "I've never been more ready," Lily replied, her tone steely. The doors to the boardroom opened and Richard and Julia entered, their confident expressions masking the tension that was building in the room. Julia shot Lily a look, one of those motherly glares that could freeze anyone in their tracks. But Lily was unfazed. She had already made her decision. She would no longer be silenced. She would take back her place, not just in the company, but in the family. Richard called the meeting to order. "Let's get started," he said, looking around the room with a sense of control, but his eyes lingered on Lily for a moment longer than usual. He could feel the shift, though he couldn't quite understand it yet. The first few minutes were typical: financial reports, market analysis, projections for the year ahead. But Lily wasn't here to talk about numbers. She was here to make her move. At the perfect moment, when Richard was deep into one of the speeches about the future of the business, Lily stood up. The room immediately went quiet, the attention of the shareholders drawn to her. For a second, Richard faltered, his eyes narrowing in suspicion. "I have something to say," Lily began, her voice steady but laced with authority. Her words were carefully chosen, a calculated strike to their fragile egos. "Over the years, I've seen how this company has grown, but I've also watched it suffer. I've watched decisions being made that aren't in the best interest of the people who put their trust in this company. And now, I'm here to tell you that things need to change." A murmur ran through the room. Her father's face twisted in anger, but he didn't interrupt. He knew better than to underestimate Lily. "The truth is," Lily continued, her gaze unwavering, "the choices made by my parents, especially when it comes to who should run this company, are driven by something more than just business sense. It's driven by favoritism. It's driven by the idea that one person is more worthy than another. But what happens when that person isn't the right fit? What happens when the person who's been working tirelessly behind the scenes is overlooked?" Her words hit like a thunderclap. Richard's jaw tightened. He had been in control for so long, but in that moment, Lily had grabbed the reins of the room. She could see the doubt creeping into the eyes of the shareholders. They were starting to question everything. "I've worked for this company for years," Lily said, her voice rising slightly with emotion. "I've put my heart and soul into it. And now, I will prove that I'm the one who can lead it forward. If you're willing to stand by me, we can turn this company around. If not, we'll all watch as it crumbles under the weight of poor decisions." Silence hung in the air as the boardroom digested her words. Richard's face was flushed, his fists clenched under the table. Julia's cold, calculating expression remained unchanged, but Lily could see the flicker of uncertainty behind her eyes. Then came the moment of reckoning. Ethan, who had been quietly observing the tension between Lily and her parents, stood up. "I think it's time for a vote," he said, his voice calm yet firm. "We need to decide what's best for the future of the company." The vote was swift. Lily had already ensured that the majority of the room was on her side. The plan had been set in motion long before the meeting began, and now it was all coming together. As the votes were counted, the outcome became clear. Lily's heart pounded as the results were read aloud. The majority vote is in favor of the new leadership. Her parents' faces drained of color as the reality set in. The boardroom was now hers. Lily had done it. She had taken back control of the company. But the victory was bittersweet. It was one thing to win the battle. It was another to deal with the fallout. Her family, her blood, had betrayed her. And now, she had to face the consequences of their actions. Richard and Julia, unable to accept the loss of power, began a campaign of undermining her leadership. They spread rumors, sabotaged meetings, and tried to rally the remaining loyalists in the company against her. But Lily was no longer the naive young woman who had been overlooked. She was a force to be reckoned with. Her strategy was simple: expose every lie, every manipulation, every mistake they had made. She dug deeper into the family's financial records, uncovering shady deals, questionable investments, and illegal activities that had been hidden from the public eye. She made sure the world knew exactly who her parents were. Their dirty little secrets were no longer safe. As Lily worked tirelessly to restore the company's reputation, she took drastic steps to distance herself from her parents. She fired their allies, replaced their staff with those loyal to her vision, and ensured that her leadership would be felt in every corner of the business. It was a slow, painful process, but every move she made solidified her position. And as for her parents, they faded into background, their influence slipping away, piece by piece. In the end, Lily's revenge wasn't just about taking back the business. It was about reclaiming her identity. She had proven that she could rise above their betrayal, that she was capable of more than they ever gave her credit for. She had taken everything back, and in doing so, she had redefined the rules of power. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell icon so you never miss an update. Share your thoughts in the comments below. What would you have done in this situation? We'd love to hear from you.